Hello and welcome everybody back to the Dumbass class with me, the Dyslexic Gamer, as we carry on with our RPG night with some more Warhammer Fantasy, Mordheim, City of the Damned, A Leaf Too Far. In the last episode, our group of heroes and adventurers had slain the Chaos Carnival that had set up along the River Soul. After slaying them, they had a discussion with their employer, the merchant lord Magness von Humperdinck, who informed them that he knows about the taint upon this world. His family have dealt with it before. The party learnt a little bit more about his lineage and what he's looking for in this world. At least some things. One of which being a ring. A wedding ring that belonged to his mother. And it has belonged to her mother and her mother, so on. It had been sold and he wants it back. It should be held in an auction, at an auction in Fieldorf, where the group currently are. There are a few other things that Magness has asked of the group, and in return he has shown that he will reward them properly. In the last episode, each member got 50 gold coins as a reward for their duties to Magness and the province, as this was essentially hush money, so that they don't speak about what they found.
We got an NDA money. That's what it is. We got an NDA money.
Pretty much.
We got money for an NDA.
Pretty much. As Magness knows what kind of repercussions can happen to a province when, or at towns within a province when the rumours of taint come up. Fire and pitch come into mind. Lots of it. But that was in the past.
That and people with pointy hats.
Very pointy hats. Pointy
Not
states.
the magical pointy hats either.
The group find themselves
hat.
in Fieldorf. This is the largest town that the group have come across so far. It has large stone walls that go all the way along the river. The harbour / dock area is quite large, and there are many trading vessels up and down the docks. Once, I believe, we ended off last time where everyone had left the vessel. Oh no, sorry, we had stopped it here because I went back in time so that Casper could look at a book. And learned the story of essentially what Blackhand has been seeing in his visions that he's acquired. So as we start this episode off, the trading barge has pulled in and has been tied to the docks. There are trade hands who are coming over and taking on supplies, bringing off supplies. Magness von Humperdinck, in all his splendiferous magnificence, stands on the dock. A behemoth of a man, as well, most of you now know, this appears to be more of an act than anything else. It is a show, and he appears to be quite the showman as he continues on to the dock. You see him as you ready your equipment and your goods that you'd like to bring on and perhaps trade. You see him talking to the dock master, and you can hear Magness from the boat, even though he is quite close to the shore now, in his normal self, proclaiming his wealth and his greatness. And you see many merchant look towards the man, As you gaze around at the other ships, you've seen many a dockhand look up and take notice of him. He may be far better at acting and making a scene than you might have first thought. After a small coin purse has been passed over, not sneakily, it has been done in plain sight. He heads back to the ship and proclaims to you all adventurers that you are to come with him. You will be staying at the noble house, the noble lord's mansion within this large town. And his name is the Gallienbergs. So you will be staying with the Gallienbergs, and you will be accompanying him to the auction that is supposed to be held. He informs all the hirelings that they will have their usual place at the inn. He will, of course, pay for them, but the mercenaries will have to take shifts, as they will be protecting or ensuring that no thieves get onto his boat. However, Malleus comes back onto his ship, and he informs the adventurers that he will be taking a few hours to prepare himself, to get himself ready to meet true nobility, that he cannot just go up without preparing himself first. He informs all of you, as looking at you all, that you may want to go and see the town, or prepare yourselves however you wish, perhaps have a wash or something. Not implying to any one of you, just that seems to be what he is going to do. Excuse me, I'm trying out new music and I don't know how it will all play out. If you ask Malleus, he will remind you that that is in Nullen.
Oh, okay.
So no, your elven ears are safe here, at least for the most part.
Yeah, Livia puts the torch down.
But we're still in Fildorf, yes?
Yes.
All right.
For those of you who are wondering, it is the 20th at the moment. So, also, Jim, 3 days had passed, so you would have rested for 3 days before getting here. So you may have some more fortune. Oh bollocks, he left. Never mind.
I am afraid of what is to come. I have full HP. That means something terrible is going to happen.
Is there a library in Waldorf?
So you would probably be aware that libraries there are no common libraries, if that makes sense. A library is, in this day and age, is something that either a guild puts together or a private collector builds, essentially. It's more than likely that the noble will have a library within his mansion that you may be able to peruse some of the books. But yeah, there wouldn't just be a common library that you could go and look up stuff from. This is a large enough town that you could try your hand at the guild house to see if there was a guild library. As you are a craftsman, it would be something that you would be able to do.
So I'm wanting to investigate the dagger we still have in our inventory.
Oh yes, so that dagger, there's nothing special about it except from the fact that it's master crafted and it was from a noble. The part with the noble's emblem on, that was the pendant. That was the silver, and I believe I said it was some sort of seashell. It was ivory. No, not seashell. It was silver and ivory, or gold and ivory. The dagger is just a master crafted dagger. For anyone who uses daggers, it's a really, really good weapon. Otherwise, yeah, you could sell it if you wanted.
I think I will. So, what do you guys want to do with the daggers?
Okay, so technically, so best quality is 10 times. So it's 10 gold for to buy a mastercrafted dagger. You'd get 5 for it. Jim, 3 days have passed. You've got 3 more fate points, fortune points. Shit.
Okay.
I mean, is it worth the 1 gold each?
I don't know. Do any of you guys use daggers?
Not
I guess-
really.
Are you guys buying things?
Do not sell that dagger.
Okay, that's obvious.
That is the dagger of a. We've suspected itself a noble house, so maybe it could be another way in as well as that amulet.
Okay, so could I look up the symbol of the noble house? Or do we already know which house?
We know, or I know. I definitely know, but I'm pretty
looking
sure I
to
told you guys.
Yeah,
Yes, Casper
Siegfried.
did. Yeah, Casper did
Siegfried
remind.
Hof?
That's the place.
Caligo.
Okay.
Caligo. Caligo or Caligo?
House
Calico.
Caligo from Siegfried Hof.
Calico mail and symbol of
The symbol.
Siegfried Hof.
It's a symbol of a wolfhound.
Mm-hmm. Siegfried Hof in Sturland.
Yes.
See? She meant to sell that dagger. It could be our way into Elven per Humperdinck, get more money.
Really, we'll go to the market in these 3 days and should purchase a few things. So, what is the up to what can I buy things? Just so I know, up to scarce.
Up to scarce, you don't need to make a test.
Okay.
As this is a large town, I would say that if you wanted anything that is rare, there would be a +10 gossip test to acquire it, if you can afford the item.
Yeah, nope. I can buy shit.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. Buy the wrong books open. Crap.
What's the price of a common telescope?
think a telescope's 10 gold. Unfortunately, guys, so Firefox no longer has a PDF reader, or at least mine doesn't. So I'm having to find a new one, a new PDF reader, and I can't find
Google
a decent
Chrome.
one at the moment. Does Google Chrome do? I might have to.
Yeah, you can drag it
And
out.
on bezels.
I might have to go with Google Chrome at one point. So yeah, I do have one, but it's really crappy at the minute. So me looking up things for you is going to be incredibly slow.
Well, I have it right here in the army, but it's gold is only the rare that's mentioned.
Yes, if it's only rare that's mentioned, then that's more than likely because to make such an item is incredibly difficult. So it takes a special, special type of skills.
I'm confusing quality with availability. Never mind. I did the derp.
That's okay, easily done.
Sure, we don't want to sell the dagger.
If it's an heirloom, you don't sell it.
Okay.
Well, we might want to return it along with the pendant.
Exactly.
So,
We know what will be sold at the auction.
not at this moment. Not at this moment in time. You can ask around. There are a lot of people in the docks and in the marketplace. As you look around, you can see there is quite a hustle and bustle going on. A lot of empty carts. A lot of empty carts. A lot of people. But as you look around, yeah, you'd expect there to be more cargo being moved through.
Okay. Is there any clothing or anything we want to get to fit in with this thing better, or do we want to make sure we look like bodyguards?
Really will look the same. She'll just resupply with a few things, and she's gonna basically follow. If Humperdinck needs, she'll be following Humperdinck around as a bodyguard. Other than that, she's just gonna be chilling.
Fair enough.
That may be something you might want to bring up with Humperdinck at one point. Although Nullen is not far away, so perhaps a discussion for when you're in Nullen, or once you sign a new contract with him, perhaps.
True.
You can also roll gossip tests to find out what's going on in town as well, and use that to get
I might
rumours.
try that. Yeah, I give a gossip test.
Sure, there's a lot of people here. They're all quite open and friendly to a degree. So you'd get a plus 20.
Ooh, nice. Oh, you don't add 20. Or don't add the plus sign.
Yeah, don't put the plus sign. Only for taking away. That was close enough that I'll give it to you that you don't get exactly what you want. It's you see one of the merchants who's looking over his wares, and he seems to be in a particularly bad mood. And no matter what you say, doesn't really help the matter. But he grouches at, auction's called off. We're packing up. No money to be made here. Come on, get the horses here. And he brushes your any further inquiry aside.
Oh. Okay. Well, I would return to the others and just say that apparently the auction is off.
What do you mean off?
I don't know. The merchant over there complained to himself about it and overheard it. He wouldn't answer any of my questions though.
I'm gonna try gossip myself.
Sure. Plus 20.
I will also approach as a trader.
Hey!
So Blackhand, you only get a plus 10. They are open to you, and your being a trader does help. Magness, you go up to a group that seems cheerier as you look round, and you begin talking with a group who are quite open. And they're chatting away. They seem to be a minstrel group of some description. And as you get talking to them, they tell you that the road's really dangerous. You know, a couple of caravans went missing, and Hamlet's been attacked, and it's not safe. So the nobles are going to Nullen. They're not going to stick around if Field Off isn't safe. Which who can blame you? Blame them really. But behind these walls, we're all right. You know, we're safe. There's always money to be made through a song and a dance. And the guys of the troop around, like, you can already see they're doing small juggling acts and small playing a small tune. But Blackhand, as you see the others break off and start to gossip, you make your way over to one of the merchants and you look at his wares, and you can see he's a weapons trader, and you compliment him on his work and ask about his trade, and you milk some information out of him, and he tells you that one of the larger caravans that was transporting goods for the auction was attacked, and it's because that one caravan was attacked that the nobles who are transporting goods here don't think it's safe to use the roads, and they don't see why they would come down south when Nullen has a much grander auction hall. Nullen as a city being more dangerous than Fieldorf, but Fieldorf having a much smaller auction house than stuff, because it's a large town, whereas Nullen is a large city.
Mm-hmm. Does he tell who's responsible?
No one knows. If for Magness and for Blackhand, no one knows who has attacked, but no bodies were found of man nor beast. And in the hamlets that have been attacked,
So we don't know who's attacked.
no. And in the hamlets, it's pretty much the same. Blood has been left, much blood, splatters, but entire small hamlets just wiped out.
But there are traces of combat. It doesn't look like they just got up and just left, right?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. There has been blood and signs of battle, but no weapons left, no items.
So it could be worse, because it would be worse if there would just be no traces of them.
You're kind of in a middle area of shittiness. I mean, if bodies are left behind, it's bandits. They took the goods, and if bodies are taken, then then there's signs of battle. Then that's a lot of things that could have done that. But when there's no trace whatsoever, then yeah, that's when darker things are involved.
Yeah, we just burned the hamlet to the ground. We don't talk about the hamlet anymore.
I apologise, I keep forgetting that I don't have push to talk on the Twitch recording one. I have to mute myself. Apologies. Hope that wasn't too... Yes, you all hear about certain rumours and happenings that are going on in it's still Westerland. I believe this part of the map is still Westerland. You are kind of on the border between Westerland and Averland at the moment, I believe. And Averland, Westerland. Oh no, because I think Westerland still goes all the way up to Nullen. Yes, it goes all the way up to Nullen, and then you've got Averland and Stirland. That's the one. But on the map, you're basically informed that the attacks have been happening on the east side of the river, and they've been happening in and around the towns here. The villages. So with all these villages, they have small hamlets that reside on the outside of them, therefore farming land, and because you can't all farm in the same area. Most of them have all been happening around these sorts of areas, but some of them have been happening inwards. None of the actual villages, as far as you can get from your questioning on, have been hit. But the main the caravan that was struck, that was along the main road, and the fact that there was no trace, like no cart, no animals, no bodies, just blood, and with all these other attacks is the reason why everyone's taking their goods up to Nullen dead.
Is there a bounty on the attack?
You don't know if there's a bounty or not at the moment. No one's speaking about a bounty. Because no one knows who's done it. It would be the local lord who would set the bounty up, or it would be a religious group or a powerful organisation. A merchant guild might put out a quest to have something like this stopped. But with no trace, with no one knowing what it is, there hasn't been anyone sent out as of yet. It's almost as if the world was waiting for some adventurers to come knocking.
Weird, right?
So no bounty.
Well, we wish them.
Not at the moment. But then you are staying at the Lord's manor, so you're staying in the perfect place to find out, really. Funny coincidence, that.
How close to the town was the caravan attack?
It was attacked about 3 days outside of Fieldhoff, which is 4 days, 2 days from this one here.
Oh no.
So it would have been attacked about there, I believe.
Oh. Okay. Alright, take the boat around. Let's go.
So let's go to the north.
Pardon?
Aren't we going to the Lord right now?
It'd probably be better if we approached the Lord with Humperdinck.
Yeah, you're just taking a couple of hours to do some shopping, to prepare yourselves, to wash up if you choose. Just those little things.
Casper would definitely be washing up. He knows what Empire nobles and stuff are like, because everyone kind of just knows the pompous, you know.
So you have a couple of options if you do want to wash up. Being right next to the river, you'd see that there are several. They're basically merchants, but they've got big tubs set up. Some of them have hot water boiling on a fire next to the tubs. Some of them have tubs, a fire, and a curtain that goes around the tub. Some of them have a tent. Others you can see are just washing in the river naked, just out in the open, in the cold water. It's entirely up to you how you want to clean. To wash in the river is free. To wash in a tub, which is provided by, well, just a standard tub, is a penny, I think, is 1 bronze penny, and 1 silver.
Paid for it.
Huh?
Won't Humperdinck have paid for it in the tavern?
No, this is washing in by the river. He doesn't pay for you for your cleanliness. So
Did you really think he would?
he may have.
He paid for an entire evening of booze.
Yeah, but
Yes,
that's
but-
booze.
That's for diplomatical relations, you could say. Paying for us to wash is not a necessity.
Yeah, it's 1
Could be for his
silver.
nose.
It's 1 silver if you want the bathtub with the heated water and the curtain around it. It's 2 silver if you want the tent that encompasses the tub. Well, it's not a tub; it's a big bucket. But hey ho. But there may be a bath girl in there who'll scrub your back.
Yeah, but that costs money.
Yeah, certainly does.
Two
I
silver
need
is-
money.
You could wash in the river for free.
Let's be real. You're a dwarf. You don't need a bath.
Of course I do. I can have a swimming pool.
It's a highly amusing image, I tell you that much, but I will counter you with saying, but can you swim?
Of course not. He can swim.
It
He
is
can swim, but he sure as hell can sink.
it is a
I can
skill.
just imagine the entire beard just kind of floating, just little strands of beard, just making this small black patch around like this bald head in the pool in the water.
Perfect.
Sorry, do you want to go to the shallow? This is the shallow.
So it's entirely up to you how you guys want to wash. It's you have the free
Is there
option.
soap on the boat?
I would imagine that you guys have got to know the crew of the boat off camera. You don't need to speak to them every day. They know you. The chef knows you enough that if you ask him, I'm sure he'll give you a sliver of his soap and a rag that you can have. I don't think he really wants it back. Sure, you return my rag to me after you wash your ass. No.
Please no.
Mm.
Casper's going to the bathhouse and getting the tent, maybe.
Magness will probably wash in the river. I mean, it's usually what he does, living on the river, so
Casper, for your 2 silver, you have a hot bath with actual soap and clean cloths, and a middle-aged woman. She's attractive, but she's not anything particularly special. You can tell that she's had a pretty hard life of cleaning and scrubbing and doing people's laundry, but she's pleasant
Don't
enough.
Treat my back like a pot.
She can scrub your back, of course. Would anyone else be paying to wash, or would the elves just be like, yeah, we'll just go in the river?
Yeah, Livia will take the river.
Here's the thing. Aurelia would take the river, except she has seen so much shit floating down the river that she's probably gonna take a hot bath or two soon, and she'll dispense any help.
There is, like, you can see people washing their clothes and people chucking stuff out into the water. You'd need to give me a perception check if you wanted to see anything in the water.
I mean, look, if you're worried about the bodies, we're upriver now.
No, technically, well, depends where they get chucked in.
See,
That's how it works, right? We're
you see-
upriver, we're safe.
you see, no, I'm good. I'm gonna take a nice, hot bath.
Okay,
was a
fine. Before
lake.
Livia goes into the river, she will do a perception test.
God, you people are way too sensible for medieval times.
Aurelia's a hunter. She is supposed to be.
Wow.
find that nice.
Okay.
I just got paid and I'm a peasantry citizen. I'm spending the money. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're a wizard.
I
Oh,
know.
Black
That's the
You're
Cat.
thing,
educated.
I just got money. I don't have this. I've never had this much money.
Yeah,
Blackhand,
don't get used to it because you're gonna start paying guild dues soon.
as you
Not
look
yet.
into the river, you spot a floater there, a sub there. There's a smear coming through that doesn't look very pleasant at all, and you can see that it just as you look, there's just so much detritus, and as you look into the water, it's not really clear, as murky, and although it's fast flowing, so you keep seeing, you can almost look up the bank and you can see as the town's sewage drains are emptying out, where the rise is of the sewage, where you can see the river pulls some of the sewage out, but it's not done very well, their sewage system, and it pushes some water up, and there are breaks in between when you think you could chuck a bucket in and get some clean water out. Livia, you don't see any of this. You look round, you can see that there's a clean spot there, and there's a clean spot there, and as you begin to disrobe,
Say, dwarf, what do you think of the water?
Do you want the clean version or my honest opinion?
I'll take your honest opinion.
It's filled with shit. Luckily, it moves fast, so it doesn't mean that it will stick on you. I hope.
Guess I'll take a 10 then.
Livia, as you were down at the water's edge,
Could I put down some planks before me, so that it goes around?
you could. It would take longer. You could look along the river to see, is there a part, a section of the river where it has naturally eroded away, and put a small bend in, and try and go there as a kind of. But as you look along, you can see most people have already picked those spots, and that's where they've set up to get their water from. You can find one. It will just take you a bit longer walking along the river. Aurelia, as you turn around and decide, no, I'm going to the tents. Well, I'm going to the tubs at the very least. You can see that there are a fair few humans who have all just staring in your direction. As you look around, there aren't there's 2 elves, female elves, around. It's up to you if you want to get naked in front of them and you know, have a wash.
I'm sorry. Was this for Livia or for me? Because I
I think it was
Livia.
I would look for some private spot.
Private you won't find, because this is such a busy town. There's a lot of people doing laundry and such. You can go in your pants, essentially, and just underwater wash your ass in your front. It's not difficult to do. Or you can have no shame and walk in completely bare to the world. There's no real shame in that, or anything else. You could probably see some peasants who are doing that. It's the done thing. It's just up to you how you feel.
Sure, are there dwarves nearby?
There aren't any dwarves. You don't see
Okay,
any.
I
of
don't
them.
care.
No, I guess Livia will try. Lump.
I mean, you can also just see if you can borrow a bucket, grab buckets out of the water and wash that way. I mean, it's entirely up to you.
Just so long as you don't drink from the bucket, it's fine. There's a
Like,
history
fine.
behind that.
It's 2 silver. It's fine.
Cool. Livia, you get a delightful young girl who is quite young. She's maybe like 14, maybe 15. But she's quite like enraptured by the fact that there's an elf in her tent, and she's seeing to an elf, and she's quite overcome by it and extremely excited. But you have a lovely hot bath. She doesn't pester you too much. She kind of just fawns over you, just staring at pretty much every part of you, from your hair to your toes to your, just enraptured by the whole thing, by all of you essentially. Who else was having a tent with a hot bath? I believe it was Aurelia.
Yep, it went straight there.
You too also have a very young lady to scrub your back, and to, again, much like Livia may tell you later on, she fawns and is just like completely taken aback that she gets to see an elf. This may be something that sticks with her for the rest of her life.
I mean, although Aurelia is beautiful, she is filled with scars and tattoos. So, she's a hunter, and she's 124.
Jesus Christ. So, she'd probably be... They're probably quite professional. They're probably quite professional because they've got the tent and they've got everything set up. So I imagine they wouldn't ask any questions unless you asked a question, if that makes sense. They would just scrub your back, wash parts of you that you can't reach, and assist you with more hot water, more soap, so on and so forth. Magness, were you going in the river like a filthy peasant?
Yes, I was going in the river.
Good man, good man. So you go into the river to wash. You want to roll me a 1d100?
Sure can.
It's okay. It's only if Nuffle really hates you that anything would happen.
Let me get a taper in the genital.
You know my luck, this.
Come on.
What were you saying?
No, you're fine. If you'd got a natural 100, I would have been like, okay, something bad happened, but you're fine. You wash, you don't have any ill effects, you don't pick up a floater by accident or anything like that. You're good. Blackhand, were you going to wash in the river, or were you going to get a bath?
I think I would choose the river.
Okay, roll for me a 1d100. Blackhand, you do have a few people who are watching you as well, because dwarves, whilst not as uncommon as elves, are still, some people have never seen a dwarf, and to see this really stocky, small individual, it takes you back a bit. Nothing bad happens. If you've seen the character art for Gottrex and Felix, Gottrex is fucking huge. He's got muscles coming out of everywhere. Now, you may not be as strong as the unkillable Slayer himself, but dwarves are stocky motherfuckers with big ass muscles. So people
I mean,
are definitely
Gottrex
like,
has muscles on top of muscles. Like his muscles have muscles that have muscles. It's ridiculous.
well, he's the
Pretty sure
second
his
worst
hair has
Slayer
muscles.
in dwarven history, as far as I'm aware.
And he is the worst because he can't die. It's one job he wouldn't be bad at.
We should both get worried about the dwarf drowning in the shallows.
Yeah, I've just seen that. I'm guessing that was Jim, but I can't confirm it. So
Shh, you know nothing.
so you all wash up. There's no ill effects. Nothing bad happens to anyone. And after an hour or so, you can, for those of you who use the river, there are fires set up along the river, so you can afterwards, dry off a bit, sit by the fire, and it's quite warm, quite pleasant. For those of you in tents, you have towels that are given to you, and you are kept warm and by their fires. An hour or so passes. You all come out looking far cleaner and healthier than when you went in. I was going to, if Nuffle had allowed it, I would have been like, excellent. One of you comes back looking filthier than when you went in. But no, sadly not. You go back to the boat and going over your equipment, perhaps one of the older deckhands passes a bit of polish your way and just tells you, have a once over of any gear you're taking with you, and you do so, just cleaning off the dirt, cleaning off the grime and wear over the last couple of weeks. And after another hour has passed, Malleus comes out in all his magnificence. You haven't seen him in robes like this before. They are gold, green, and have a red trim around the outside. It appears to have silver twine, almost like a silver silk that wraps around the trim and goes all the way along the trim. He comes out with his monocle on. It is gold, with a very fine gold chain that looks like it should be placed in a watch, not on a monocle. It is so fine and delicate, and you can almost see this chain move in the wind. He has extremely fine boots on that you don't quite know what leather it is, but it has a luscious luster on it and a gleam that just doesn't look natural. He has a long white cane with a magnificent ruby inset in the top that almost feels as if it's giving off heat, as if a fire radiates from it. He stands with his pointed moustache and goatee, well oiled and immaculately placed. Comes out in all of his splendour. Oh yes, I can see you are all getting ready, making yourselves look presentable. It's quite fine, and yes, this will be a great event. I feel it in my very soul.
Sorry to ruin it, but it seems like the auction is kind.
He just stares at you. What?
Doing all our usual stuff, buying supplies for the ships and all. We got to talking with some of the merchants, and they said that the event was cancelled because weird things are happening. The villages disappearing, convoys that are attacked and no, or presumed to be attacked, and no traces of found. So the nobles decided that Waldorf isn't a safe place.
Yes, they were moving the auction to Nuln. At least that's what the minstrel said. Same story here. A couple of outlying hamlets got attacked, but there's nothing but blood left, not even the bodies.
His face drops. Utter disappointment is written all over his face as he looks at both of you, and I am going to kill that motherfucker. Men,
Who?
ready your
I devour
equipment
this.
and come with me.
Wh-
He
where-
marches
where
off
are
of
we
the
going?
ship with utter fury in every step. You can see him,
I go.
his eyes dart across the
the-
docks, looking for someone.
I'm pretty damn sure we're gonna beat the living crap out of the shipmaster right now.
Yeah, probably the Dark Knight. Yeah, Magnus just sighs and follows him. It's like, I'll
I
better
go
not irk
to
him now.
the deckhand that has an injured arm and ask for his crossbow.
He kind of nods knowingly and just hands it to you with some bolts. Just, I take it. After a few moments of Blackhand taking the crossbow and quickly trying to catch up with the group, and Malleus storming off down the docks, his boots clanging on the wooden deck as he stomps down, he sees the man, and in utter rage just, "You brigand! How dare you speak to a Von Humperdinck, you lying toad!" The man turns round and goes white. And men, get him! Bring him to the boat. The man looks at your group, just mercy.
You ready? We'll
I'm
ready
just
her-
gonna. I'm
we'll
just
ready
gonna
her
look
bow
at. Yeah.
and
Go
point
ahead.
and point an arrow to his knees, and she's gonna. I think you should just follow, because if I shoot this arrow through your knee, you're never gonna walk right ever again. So please just follow along.
Look, mate, nothing personal, but the guy's paying us.
The man falls to the floor. But I'm in the employ of Lord Galleon. And I am his friend. And you have deceived me and taken my money when I offered it graciously for your information. I do not accept this.
I would return the money if I were you, and some bonus.
He quickly grabs the money and throws it down. Please, I didn't realise. I wasn't to know. I thought you were just any old noble. I just. Well, you were
I'm just gonna lean
greatly
towards
mistaken.
Blackhand. I'm just gonna lean towards Blackhand. I think it's way past worrying about money at this point.
This way we can get some cash. We all need it.
You think he'd notice if we, scoop the purse?
He's too mad for it. For it.
I don't have sleight of hand. I can't go for it. I can't. It's an advanced skill that I don't have.
Well then.
Reda takes her arrow out, puts back on her quiver, goes over, and everybody can clearly see she grabs the pouch of gold, puts on her backpack, moves closer to Humperdinck and she says, "So I think he just pissed himself. Her and your pouches with me. Should should we still bring him? I mean, he's gonna smear his filth all over the boat."
I would probably go over and put my hand on his shoulder.
Yeah, second shoulder.
I would try to grab the gold and I post it.
Does he count as restrained?
Hang up bonus.
Jesus. Ooh.
Would I recognize the flag? Would I have counted the gold coins by now?
It really took those while you two were deciding whether you would take it or not.
Yeah.
Red is not greedy. She's just being, she's just being, how should I say, amused by the situation. So, so she's being nice to her employer. I mean, if anybody, yeah. If the dwarf does ask for it, I should just check the coins to the dwarf. To let him count and do the thing.
I mean, Magness will definitely do a gimme hands.
She'll give you the pouch.
Yay, how much is in the pouch? How many of us are there?
5.
5.
2 gold each it is then.
Yay.
It's money, you know. Rome. It's something to do with Rome, at least in my language. Yeah. Yeah, I know what it is in Polish, but I have no idea what it is in English.
God damn it.
You mean Rhea? It's not. Essentially, Rhea is the human goddess, which she and Tol together are gods of nature. And Rhea is considered Mother Earth, and Tol is the Green Man, I think. I mean, technically, they are interchanging in seasons. I think one season is dedicated to Tol, the other to Rhea. I don't know my divine lore so very well, so.
Sorry about
But
that.
they are essentially the same, two parts of the same deity in a way.
Yeah, so it was more because this place is so worked that Livia doesn't. This isn't that impressive to her. She's a wood elf. She'd rather see natural woods being grown into shapes and manipulated rather than chopped down and worked. So, Livia, you notice that everything seems a little bit too perfect. Everything is a little bit too. All the staff stand in a absolutely perfect way. Everything is, the lawn's perfect, the inside's perfect. Something seems a little bit off about this individual. Just the house and how everything is. Blackhand, you notice everything's off as well. Again, everything's too perfect and everything's placed wrong. And you look at the servants, and you see that everything is perfect on them, and that's just isn't right. And as you study them a bit closer, you see a glint of metal flash just quickly, and you look closer, and you can see that in the collar of one of the I didn't actually give them a gender, did I? So we'll say one's a man and one's a woman. You notice that the one in the man, there's a needle sticking out of his collar, leading up, and that's perhaps why his neck is so elongated and he stands so straight. And as you notice that, you look closer at the servants, and you can start to see bruises as they move, and their wrists are shown. You can see dark bruises around the wrists. As you look around and they turn, you can see that there are, although very well hidden, with how many degrees did you get? With 5 degrees of success, you see them. The marks of bruises coming round, and the areas of a swollen cheek, swollen eyebrow. Is that a nick? Perhaps bleed, a swelling? you start to pick up on little things, and as you see more, so you were led into the entrance, into the entry hall, around into the greeting room.
Know from where the bruises on the wrists are from? Like, are they from shackles or?
You wouldn't know. You didn't get a good enough look. You've noticed that they have got bruises, and you've noticed where around, but you haven't had a good look. They haven't like lifted up their sleeve so you can examine. The bruise could go all the way up the arm to the elbow for all you know. But at the moment you can just see the wrists as they like open a door and stretch. You can just see that where the white collar should be, not collar. Yeah, it is, because it's cufflinks. Yeah, sorry, cuffs. Where they stretch their arms, their cuffs stretch out, and you can see the line of bruising. They have gone through a lot to disguise it, to hide it. You would pick that up with your perception, that their uniforms look like they're designed to, everything's perfect and hides that much skin to hide the effects. As you come into the greeting room, there are a couple more servants who are stood there, essentially there to greet you. And as Humperdinck enters, they bow very low and gesture to him to sit and relax. And as he takes a seat, they bring him a cigar, they bring him whiskies and all sorts of drinks and things to placate him, to keep him happy. This is a greeting room. There are more than enough seats for you all to take a seat. They don't gesture to any of you to sit down, but you could if you wanted. It's a large greeting room. There's about 8 chairs, 1 large table and 2 smaller tables. 1 large table in the middle, 2 smaller tables at the sides. They look more like game tables. Whereas the main big table is quite low down and looks more like a coffee table. There's fine art on the walls that show different members, perhaps of the family. They all look kind of similar in build and look. And there's a grand fireplace. After Humperdinck has his cigar lit and his drink brought to him, he gestures at all of you. See to my men as well. They should not be neglected. But remember your manners, of course. We will not offend my good friend, Lord Galleon. Would any of you, as the man and woman go round and offer you they offer you a cigar and a drink if you want it.
Rally will nod and say thank you, but she will refuse both.
Are there others drinking?
I would take a drink and would go easy, take it slow, tip away. Don't try to.
Are there others drinking?
Olivia would refuse, and she would stand next to Aurelia and whisper to her, I don't like this. Seems too perfect.
Yeah. I don't know what you saw, but I have a weird feeling about this place too. Deep in my gut, I don't know how to put this any better, but you on your toes, Livia.
Magness, would you have a drink and a cigar?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And then Blackhand, would you accept a drink?
I will politely refuse.
Okay. Some time passes, about 15, 20 minutes. Von Humperdinck's cigar is almost smoked. Would you look around the room? Would you? It's 20 minutes of just standing there. No? If no one would do anything, then...
Could you repeat that? It cut out for me. My connection is a bit iffy today.
Would you do anything? About 20 minutes is going to pass whilst you're in the meeting, the greeting room. Would you do anything? Would you look at any of the staff or any of the art pieces or the room in general?
I would like to, as I have my back to the wall, I would like to observe the staff if I can.
I would like to stand beside someone also with my back to the wall after double check that there's no hole in the wall. Not obvious checking, just closer look at an armored piece or something. And actually me looking.
Casper will be taking a look around and keeping an eye on mainly like the area and some of the pieces on the wall, just out of sheer interest, as well as trying to be cautious for Humperdinck.
Okay. So Irelia, can you give me a perception test? Can you do it with a plus 30? Because you're doing this over 20 minutes. Blackhand, you go and check the wall. You're looking for a hole in the wall, did you say?
Yeah, shooting holes, spy holes, that
Oh,
kind of
okay. Oh, right, okay. So essentially, you'd need to give
hidden
me
doors.
a perception as well. I would probably say, because you're looking for hidden things, I tell you what, I won't give you a negative, but you have to get a certain number of degrees to find each thing. Exactly the same as if you did a stealth test. Some things may have 1 degree of stealth, other things may have 2 or 3, and you would have to beat them.
That's
Magness, you're just walking around and looking at things. That's fine. And Aurelia, are you basically doing the same thing?
Would Livia be able to, I don't know, look at the swollen eyebrows or something? Like, I'm imagining the servants running around with tablets, offering stuff.
Yeah,
So they
they're not
those.
they're not so much running round. They're very dignified, almost as if it's a performance, and every single step, every position, every turn is well thought out. Not to crowd you all, but not to be so far away as to be out of reach, and it's quite odd. Sure, you can watch them for a while. If you give me a perception test with, I'd probably say a plus 20.
Okay.
So
God damn it.
for Magness, we'll go with you first. As you look at all the paintings and you look at the different people, you notice that they're all men for a start. You can pretty much tell the age of the paintings by how much detail comes out. The one above the fireplace has the most detail. It is absolutely grand and magnificent, depicting a man of fairly big build, looking stoic and brave and glorious, on top of a ridge with a sun setting behind him and a noble hound next to him with a weapon drawn at the ready in a charge-like manner pose. That's the newest one. You go to the next one, and it's you can tell it looks like the man's father. Again, very grand, very a lot of detail, magnificent pose, and you go back, and it appears as if there's a few generations. You count them all. 7 paintings here, so 7 generations. They all look slightly different. They all, when you go to the very first one, you see that they all look onwards like an amalgamation. But at the first one, you look at it and something odd about it. Something really odd, and you can't quite make out what it is until you sit and just stare at it for a while. Not sit, you stand and stare at it for a while. We will come back to you. Blackhand, you look around the room and you can't find any holes as you look around and try and not be too obvious about it. You just cannot see anything. And eventually you make your way over to where Casper is. Aurelia, as well, actually we can do both of the elves, Aurelia and Olivia. You're both watching the staff. Now, Olivia, you notice that they're all moving in a dance-like pattern. Everything is properly planned out, and the distances always stay the same. And as you look at them, as one of them moves to bring Lord Humperdinck another nibble, another one moves around to keep a set distance between them. And as you watch them, they constantly have their eyes darting from you all to each other, to drinks, to that's where you kind of peter out with what you see. They're very attentive and freakishly obsessed with distances. Aurelia, you notice more as you watch, and you see one of the girls bend down to fill Humperdinck's glass back up. You can see large bruising across her neck. And as another one turns to offer a nibble to Magness, you can see as he passes the platter over to him, you can see across his wrists bruising. And then you notice the needles. There are far more than what Blackhand originally saw. You can see that not only do they have needles in their collars around their necks, multiple needles, they also have what seems to be other needles, or there's metallic objects on their clothes, as if they were to lean back and try and, I forget the word now. If they were trying to doss off, basically, if they were trying to just relax whilst working, they would be stabbed by a metal spike or something similar. As one of them moves quickly, you see a flash. How would you see a flash? You wouldn't. You just see metal studs on the back, and you imagine that maybe they're spikes. And it's about at this time when the door goes, the handle is pulled down. Aurelia and Livia, you notice immediately that all the servants' eyes dart to that door being opened. As the door opens, both doors open. There is a man standing there. His complexion is far greyer, and there are large bags under his eyes, but he does resemble the portrait above the fireplace, but perhaps a man who is ill, or a man who's under the weather, or he seems to have lost much of himself. Black hair, slightly greasier than in his portrait, but no surprise. His quite large beard, again, is not, whereas Humperdinck's is immaculate and has been prepared for this this meeting. This man is not the same. It is scraggly in places, untrimmed. he comes into the room, yet he has two guards behind him. Casper, as you turn around to see the individual, you look back at the painting, and you don't look at the picture itself, you look at the background. You see what almost looks like an image within an image. You see something dancing, a crown. Blackhand, as you turn round and look, you see a figure that is similar, different. And as you look at the photo, the paintings around, you notice that, hang on, are these all portraits of the same family? So what was Casper? You look at the painting that Casper was looking at, and you almost forget to breathe. If the face was blurred out, you could swear that was the perfect shape of the abuser. As the door flies open and eyes are brought forth, Magness almost leaps from his chair. Gale! Gale, my old friend, what is going on here? I expected to hear from you from much sooner, my old dear friend. And Magness, I hear you have not heard of happenstance and events. But of course not. I was away trading, getting the finest goods to share with my old friend, and I must confess I have forgotten the gifts here aboard my vessel. I came in anger. I apologize, my friend. Magness steps towards Gale. Galleon, and you see that the guards who were behind Gale step forwards. Oh, what is Gale? What is the meaning of this? Stand down! I am von Humperdinck. Stand down, you peasants! Gale, tell me, my friend, what is going on here? It is unlike you to
Do I
be
have
such.
my crossbow with me?
No, all of your weapons, which I actually forgot. So, in the 20 minutes, everyone would have been asked to hand their weapons over, and they would have been placed in a cabinet in the room. Von Humperdinck handing over his staff. I actually completely forgot about that. So thank you very much, Albie, for reminding me.
What would they do if you really did not give them fireball?
They'll take your arrows.
They will take
Could
just
I
my
have
arrows?
hidden a dagger?
If you want to hide a weapon, I believe it's a sleight of hand check.
Can
Can I convince them that I need my quarterstaff? That I have a bum leg.
That would be a charm. No, that would be. Is there a deceive? I think that is actually charm.
Charm is deceiving.
Yeah, it is. Isn't it?
Charm.
So you could charm them. You're with von Humperdinck. He would probably at least grunt an acknowledgement, so it'd be flat. You wouldn't get any bonuses to it.
Okay, I want to do something a bit elaborate. I want to give them my sword, my rapier, but I'm gonna keep my dagger, my main gauche, and I'm not gonna give them my longbow, but I will be giving them some of my arrows, and I'm gonna keep some hidden. But since I'm giving them a lot of shit, can I use my sleight of hand to, basically make sure that I still have arrows?
You will have to do a sleight of hand check, because you want to hold on to so much, but you are giving some. I would.
No, the main gosh I can't actually give with the thing because the main gosh is a parrying dagger. My dagger, I basically want to keep 15 arrows and a dagger.
I
I'm
would
giving them a
probably
lot.
say there's a -10 to your sleight of hand for that much. You are spending 20 minutes with these people who are, as I said, very attentive. They are constantly checking you, making sure that your wants and needs are catered for. A quarterstaff, they can, okay, yeah, he's using it to protect his leg. Fair enough. It's blunt. A longbow is quite large.
No. I'm not trying to hide the longbow. I'm giving them the arrows, and I'm saying this is, part of. This is a family heirloom. I cannot be without it.
Yeah, an
I
arrow is
cannot.
still
But
very
I will give
long.
you the arrows.
So
So I'm basically
sure,
giving them the arrows.
a -10, I think.
-10.
Yeah.
Okay. And I am dropping a lot of shit. So come on, gods. I am going to do, use my last fate point.
Sure. No, it wouldn't have made any difference the extra 10 because you failed so much.
Yeah, I know. Jesus.
Oh my god.
No, so they
Christ.
find you don't hide anything. I mean, it's not far from you. You can
Could
even.
I, instead of standing beside the wall, could I have stand beside the door?
You can end up at the door, sure, but you did look round the room for hidden holes and things like that. And it is in the room. They're not taken out of the room.
Oh, I would be close. I want to be as close to the weapon.
Sure, that's fine.
Would they have forcefully tried to take my longbow, or would they have allowed me to at least keep the longbow?
You've handed over all the arrows, and you said it was a family heirloom, so they would accept that you can keep the bow. But they would probably want to give you an extra pat down to make sure you didn't hide any arrows, because you did fail, and you were trying to hide arrows. They would want to make absolutely sure. But as long as you don't have any, then they're happy for you to keep the bow, because it's basically a stick now.
Yeah. So now they have my sword, my dagger, my main gosh, my rapier, and 53 arrows.
They pile it into this. No, you can see that this appears to be a weapons cabinet, and everything is hung up properly and in its place. And as long as no one else wants to
What's
try,
in the cabin?
it was empty. But as you're filling it up with all the weapons, like Humperdinck's pimp cane, he hands it over. He doesn't try to hide that it is actually a weapon from them. He just hands it straight over. He doesn't appear to have brought any other weapons with him. Well, every gentleman would have a dagger in this day and age. So he takes his dagger off and passes it to the servants. So would you attempt a sleight of hand or a charm test to try and hide any of your things, Albie, or would you hand them over? And depending on how large they are, or what kind of story you try and tell, will depend on what the role is.
Well, I've got a 0 in sleight of hand. So I guess I can't do anything.
So Black
I
Hand.
have 0, so that's why I used charm.
Unless you allow me to use charm or concealment.
What would you say for charm? Like, how are you going to try and charm them to keep? And what do you want to try and charm them to keep? If you want to try and charm them for all your weapons, that won't work. For one particular weapon, that may work.
I'll give them my axe, my dagger, and the arrows. Yeah, I will give everything but my dagger.
Okay, so if you roll your charm with, you just want to keep a dagger, so I'll give you a +10. As you say, it was like a family heirloom, or it was given to you when you started your trip, or some nonsense. It's one dagger. She doesn't
No.
accept. She's like, no, my lord says no weapons. The cripple can keep his stick because it's a stick, but shiny comes with me, and it gets played. So everyone's weapons, except from 2 sticks, are placed into the cabinet. It is closed and locked. The key is not taken out of the lock, though. It is left in the cabinet there, but obviously if you were to try and get them and hurt their lord, they would have enough time to get him out of there. So Magness continues. But the last I heard from you, you welcomed me here. You said that you would hold an auction, and we would drink like old times, and what has happened in those short 6 months? Well, Magness, much has happened, actually. There are attempts on my life daily, and mind you, I cannot sleep with all the noise that the birds make. Huh? You know of what I speak. Huh? Birds? Why?
Could I roll cultist check?
A what check?
A check to see if he's a cultist.
You can, I guess. You do have that ability. Sure.
I think he's talking about our better at finding cult activity.
Yeah.
We get just a perception check.
Yes. Yes, I believe it falls under perception, or you can do it with knowledge, but that's in a different aspect.
I don't have the knowledge.
No, that's more for research, or if you are a knowledge build, once you get the knowledge, it's an extra buff. But yeah, you can do it. Apply the bonus to your perception as you're watching him and his. Nope, he just looks like a noble, another human noble who's paranoid and not. It doesn't follow any of the stuff in the book that you read, although that more of spoke along the lines for the masses, for the peasantry, not so much to do with nobles. But you don't spot anything. He just seems to be a bit paranoid, and but he continues. Ever since I decided to assist you, it seems that my fortunes have turned, as it were. But, my friend, we've been allies for over 10 years. And your fortunes have never been anything but amazing. Well, yes, but the last 6 months, since I decided to hold this auction and bring in these valuables and trinkets, nothing but bad fortune. I've had to pay nobles for their loss of goods. I have lost so much in the last week and a half that it would. The last week and that's got nothing to do with me, you fucking idiot. How dare you speak to me? You have taken my goods, my valuable weapons, and locked them away. You have your meathead peasants here. That's right, you're all bloody peasants. What is going on with you? Do I need to slap some sense into you? Some decency? And what the fuck is up with all these pins? What is going on with you? I have had to take precautions. As he says this, he takes out a number of different charms and trinkets and just lucky. They're not lucky charms. They are baubles, trinkets, and talismans and nonsense. He holds a fistful of them out, all of extremely good quality, of gold, silver, jewels encrusted into them.
Can I roll magical sense?
Sure. I have had to protect myself from all manner of things.
Me too.
Not one of them is magical. He has...
No, I mean on the guy himself.
Yeah, as you look at the guy himself, the trinkets
Son of a.
that he holds up, they are not magical at all. The man himself, he doesn't seem to have any magical items on him, neither does he have any curse around him. As you look round the room, there's nothing magical in the room except from what's in the cupboard. There's something magical in that cupboard. You're fairly intelligent. You'd probably think it was the staff, as you don't think any of your gear was magical.
Okay, so he's not tainted.
No.
Okay.
Why? You were never a superstitious man. What is all this trinketry and nonsense? Malleus, in almost exasperation, just sits back down in the chair and gestures to one of the servants, and as she comes over to him, get me another cigar. Come here, you fucking idiot. She bends down and he pulls out the needles from her collar, 2 of them. Cigar, please. What the fuck is this? When have you been a man? You have made your wealth through protecting your people and raising them up, as we spoke about when we were young. Ensuring that the people do well only makes it a better, riper harvest for us. Well, my people have told me that it is due to this that this misfortune has befallen. What misfortune? Now sit down and stop behaving like a fucking idiot. The guards who stand either side are in shock. They're just like looking at each other like, what do we do? He moves in front of his guards and sits down. Over the next hour and a half, you hear as Malleus basically insults this person for quite a while at all of his imaginations in some respects. He keeps talking about bad luck of his people informing him that a black cat has crossed your path. You know, this is going to mean bad things are going to happen, and lo and behold, bad things have been happening. At first, he talks about how his beloved mother passed, and that they said that, you know, bad luck would befall you. Someone close to you will suffer as a black cat ran in front of you. You must do this in order to get rid of that bad misfortune. And he ignored it, and his mother died. And these chain of events kept happening. His mother was old anyway, so Malleus calls him a fucking idiot because she was a fossil. She could have died at any point given in time, and she died of a ripe old age. It had nothing to do with a cat. He talks about how he broke a mirror, and how he was doomed for 7 years misfortune unless he did he gave a sacrifice of 7 years 7 years produce or 7 years growth, depending on how you look at it. Malleus thought he meant 7 years wealth, whereas the man, these are a few drinks in now, the man informs him that no, he was going to sacrifice a 7-year-old child. Malleus almost slaps him at this, talking about utter nonsense and stupidity. And this again, it carries on with a stupid thing that shouldn't cause bad luck, but the times that he ignored it, something has happened. And within the past few weeks, he's been taking precautions against it. So he says he never sacrificed a child, and he never did anything for his mother. and bad things happened. But after that, he started to change. He started to take up the basically the nonsense that they were selling. So one of them was that he must, if he wants good to come into his life, he must only project evil, only do bad things. He must be strict to procedure and have everything timed, and distance was incredibly important. Something to do with God damn it! Why did I bring up maths?
Well, has he ever stepped on a crack and broke his mother's back?
That was one of the ones that were brought up, but it was that he had to strangle 15 cats to get rid of the bad luck.
That is oddly
I
specific.
feel like I'm missing something that I should know about the lore or something.
So he speaks upon
He strangled 15 cats.
yes to
Because he stepped
save
on a crack.
his loved ones back. So I'm quite good at improv sometimes. So he is basically talking about all these nonsensical myths, legends about bad luck, and so on and so forth. But it does come down to a loggerhead where, again, an hour into the conversation, where many drinks have been drunk and the slurring is becoming more and more pronounced. Many cigars have been smoked, and he speaks about that the latest one was that misfortune would befall him. He doesn't know. His people didn't tell him what he did exactly. They said one of his family members did something terrible, something heinous, and that was why he was getting punished for it, and that he had to keep everyone in positions of 7 and 7 times 7 feet away from each other, 7 paces away from each other of multiples of 7. And Magness at each point is just befuddled by why he ever believed this nonsense. And when he finally comes out about who told him, he tells him that it's one of his family's friends, one of his father's friends, an old superstitious man who has only ever been the butt of jokes. He's known. It's not as if he's someone who's come out of the blue. He's always been a superstitious man. And Magness is adamant throughout all of this that it's got nothing to do. It's just happenstance. Now that you've become superstitious, everything is being pointed out as to do with superstition. And if he had just carried on as he was, he would have realised that, oh look, nothing happened. And again, you can actually see the barriers as drink after drink go down, and the drinks are going down quicker and quicker now, as this uptight, very ill-looking individual starts slouching, starts swearing, Magness, I've been a fucking idiot. How did I not see that this was all just happenstance and just how the world works? And of course a caravan will get attacked when it's laden with goods and supplies. It's ripe for the picking, and oh, I have done such dumb things and it carries on. About another hour later, they're no longer talking about the incident. They're talking about old times, hunting expeditions, and times when funny shit happened. And you're all getting quite tired and fed up of standing. And one of the maid, the servant who Magness had removed the pins from her collar, goes around to each of you and very quietly, if you'd like to come this way, a meal is being served for the servants. Yourselves, rather. You'll be at Humperdinck's call if needed. And if there are no objections, you are all...
Could we take the weapons when we leave?
She informs, like, as she comes over to you and you say that, I will try and get your weapons after or during dinner, but let my master enjoy his company.
I'm gonna ask if
Alright.
I can stay for just a few moments longer.
Yeah, I will stay then too.
I mainly want to take a look at that painting again just before I leave.
Sure. So yeah, as you mention this to her, she's yes, very well. I'll come back in a couple of minutes. And she gestures to the rest of you who want to come, and the door is opened very slightly so that the light doesn't reflect onto her master. The room has gotten darker now. The fire is roaring, and Humperdinck and Gale are, well, Malleus and Gale are enjoying their conversation. The door is opened, and those of you who go. You are led into the hallway, into the grand hallway, and then through a servant's door off the grand hallway, and you'd see that there's a small dining room. It's kind of large for what some of you are used to, but small in scale of this room. Once the door shuts, you're able to... You'd notice that all the servants start talking. They don't hold to protocol so much, and a really nice meal has been laid out for all of you. Please enjoy please enjoy the meal. Your master von Humperdinck, we owe him so much. The least we can do is show our gratitude to his servants in return. So, who's staying? So, for those of you who are staying in the room, it is going to be a few hours of just Malleus getting pissed with his friend, talking and, telling stories. If you want to interject and ask them something, you can. But otherwise, yeah, you will just be listening to basically to old stories of them in their youth and hunting trips and shit. Go ahead, Casper.
Casper, Casper will just take a look at the painting one last time, try to wrap his head around this dancer, and then head on to the meal.
Sure. So Casper, as you look at the painting, it's almost if... So when you look at the painting, you can't see it, but when you look past it and kind of cross your eyes slightly, almost how we would see a 3D picture, you can make out this dancing figure with a crown.
Okay. This is the last painting, the 7th?
Yes.
Oh, of course, it's the fucking 7th. Oh my god.
I do have to ask.
Sure.
We who were left behind, were we guarded?
What's that?
Were we guarded, or did they leave us basically alone inside this room?
There are still servants in the room. So if you're with Malleus, Gale, there's a couple of servants who are serving them drinks and cigars and nibbles.
No. I mean, because Aurelius stood behind, in the room where there were the paintings and the weapon cabinet.
Yes, that's the greeting room. That's where you are now. That's where Malleus and Gale and the servants are currently sat talking and regaling of the past.
Okay.
So if you want to try and get your weapons back, you can interject. Depending on how you do so, would kind of depend on how they respond. Otherwise, they are acting as if you're not there.
No. I'm just gonna be. I'm just gonna pretend that I'm looking at the paintings, and I'm gonna be moving ever closer.
Okay.
Because Aurelia feels naked now that she has. She doesn't really have anything to fight with.
I understood that. You are roboting, but I did get that. So you can. Here's what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. Like, we're talking most of the evening, maybe 5 hours. They're going to get pissed and talk about old times. Now, you can stand in the room next to your weapon for 5 hours. You've already done it for a couple of hours already. But that would essentially be it. Or, I suppose you could ask them for some food and drink, and they would get you some nibbles. Or you can go and have a meal and talk to the servants, and they will try and get the weapons at one point once they can interject with their lord. Or you can try and interject with the lords and see if you can get your weapons. It's entirely up to you. One of those options will lead to you standing in a room not really learning all that much, except for maybe getting some personal details about Humperdinck.
You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I will go eat with the servants.
I'll
Because am I still roboting?
Yeah, you could.
I'll go eat with the servants and ask them if at any point if they could at least give her back a dagger or maybe 2 arrows, just a little bit. And while she's there, she's gonna be looking at knives she can try to pilfer, just to be sure. And she'll be asking, how long has this been going on? Why, why has he devolved so badly down this path? And if there is anyone that keeps whispering that he's cursed all the time and making sure the bad things happen to him and stuff like that.
You sure?
can I do the same?
Yeah. So essentially, so I believe Magness and Aurelia get taken through, and then she comes back round, checks that Casper. Yep, Casper's had a look at the painting again and checked out so he comes along. Blackhand and Aurelia come along. As you leave the room and the door's closed, you mention about getting your weapons back as soon as possible. That you feel naked without something to defend your. How would you? You're fairly intelligent. You mentioned that you feel naked without a weapon to protect your lord. That if something were to happen to him, it would be. She kind of understands and informs you that as soon as they think it's right, they'll interject with her lord's conversation, and they'll bring your weapons to you. You go into the again. It's small for this room, but it's quite a large. There's a large table where you could probably sit about 8 or 10 people. And why I did odd numbers there. Well, actually, I suppose one at the head. Yeah, okay. Between 8 and 10 people. And you sit down, and there isn't a vegetarian option, but they can do you one if you don't want to eat. Essentially, they've got a big meat and potato and root vegetable stew there with decent bread and a pitcher of watered down wine. So you've got something to drink, but you're not getting drunk on duty. And during the meal, you ask them some questions. So how long has this been going on? Like the noble said, about 6 months. The who's been whispering questions into his ear? That would be Lord Marvin. He's a minor lord of this town. He's not exactly well liked or well respected. He's very devoted to the Church of Sigmar, and he's very, very superstitious. Out of all the lords, he's probably the most superstitious, but also devout and pious. A little bit of an odd situation with him, but no one really gave him any credence until things started happening. For example, his mother dying and it being so. He is in town and he does go to the auctions and he does go to the performances and he is around the Lord quite a lot. Before this all started kicking off. And the servants basically said it really did seem to be just this coincidence. He went to the auction house to check over some of the details, some of the goods that had been dropped off, and Lord Marvin came in and was speaking to him, and as they turned around, this black cat ran out in front of them, and Lord Marvin stated that, you must do this, otherwise your mother someone dear to you will perish, and Lord Gale didn't believe it. He was like, don't be such a fucking idiot, you shivering fool. But then his mother perished, and it just led into this behavior. Essentially, they're not quite sure, because Lord Marvin is a person in town. Like they've seen him for years. It's not like he just appeared and started doing this. They find it really odd, but then never has the situations that had led up to it been that perfect. That it would be on that day that it happened, that his mother would perish and that this would happen. And what was the other question? It was how long, who?
Yeah, I asked how long and who kept whispering things, and if there were anything weird actually happening that people would suspect that is actually happening instead of just random chance.
Yeah, for the weird things, nothing weird happened, but how everything lined up, that was weird. How every event seemed to unfold was extremely weird for the 6 months that passed when all of this just kept steamrolling and kept snowballing is a better word. But as for like creepy or odd or people or music or anything that you've experienced before, no, they tell you that there's been no attacks or nothing odd in that nature. There have been attacks of banditry or brigandry, but that's normal in the old world. The caravan that was attacked, I believe it was like a week ago, that was not out of the ordinary, but at the same time that seemed to coincide with the Lord doing something that would coincide with him getting misfortune. And yet, you could, from speaking to them, you could almost imagine that this situation would have only grown worse and worse and worse if Malleus hadn't turned up, if a close friend hadn't turned up to snap him out of it, or if the bad luck hadn't come to an end.
Okay. I guess that's pretty much most I want to know. I feel as if there's someone pulling a little bit of strings behind the scenes, but there's no way for Riley to know this at this point, so this is all for her.
By the time the conversation ends, the meal has been eaten. It was very pleasant. Spices that you weren't quite familiar for some of you. You would see that a couple of a couple of servants come in with items wrapped in a cloth. They lay it out on the table, remove the cloth, and it's all of your weapons.
Ah. Yes, the dagger that I definitely use.
And you thought I was going to do something terrible, like ambush you when you had no weapons.
I mean, to be honest, I was prepared to fight with the longbow as an improvised weapon, but still.
I mean, I have spells. I don't really care.
I half expected it to be suddenly demon out of his.
If this had been my mage, I would have given them everything. Just like, no, it's fine, take it. I would just keep, my bag because my bag was filled with shit that people could not see. Like, a talking skull, but let's not worry about that.
What?
Don't worry about it.
I kind of have to ask one of the servants. What was this thing about sevens and multiples of sevens?
Something to do with luck, I think. Numbers and they always come up. Yeah, I heard some peasants have got in with 13. They think if they do something 13 times for 13 whatevers for 13 nights, it protects their town. Lots of things like that. Casper, you'd at least know of a couple of stories where numbers were involved.
Is there anything in that book about numbers? The cult book?
The book about stories.
No, not the.
Okay, Humperdinck's
maybe.
book. Humperdinck's book. You know what? There probably would be actually. Again, it'd be more to do with groups. So large collections of peasants normally. That they would have a fascination with numbers. The book doesn't specify what numbers because they always seem to be slightly different. Sometimes it's 9, other times 13, sometimes 7, other times... Is it 8? I think Nurgle's is 8, isn't it?
No,
8,
Nurgle's
6, 7, 9, 13, 11, 10, I think. 6, 7, 8, 9. Or the Chaos God.
Yeah, then you have to... The Horned Rat comes into it with his 13.
And 11's Malal.
Yeah. Although Malal in this universe, I'm not as sure what his stake is. I'll need to look that up. I think he's in it. I think. So yeah, it speaks of numbers, but there's not a defined reason. Like you don't know that those numbers link to one of the 4 Chaos Gods or the Skaven God. You just know that numbers are used, and there can be a real fanaticism around the numbers. But at the same time, you'd also know of say if a peasant girl wants her sweetheart to love her forever, she might bake him 5 sweet rolls with 5 currants in each one for 5. They'll have their own folk tale about doing things with numbers. So that would probably be from your seasoned traveller. You would have that.
Okay. What about that story of the prince? Was there any mention of 7 in it? I can't quite remember.
No, there weren't any in that folk tale in particular. The original story there had nothing to do with numbers in that. Some of the folk tales afterwards do, but that's more of a case of, so when it becomes more of a Robin Hood kind of tale about this unknown figure who took vengeance upon the nobles to give back to the peasantry, that he would take from the nobles 6 times what they took from the peasants, and would give each peasant in the town each 6 coins from the money that he took to represent the amount of cruelty that was done to them. There was always, in the folk tales, there was always numbers added in later on. Yes, for the main story, no, there was no real correlation.
Okay.
Would anyone ask the servants about anything else? They do seem to be extremely friendly and open with you all.
Did they notice something weird about the Lord or his visit weirder than usual?
You basically get the same information that Casper's been told. So all the information that Casper's been told while speaking to the servants, you can all hear that because you're at a table talking. A bit difficult to hide it. So you all heard about the Lord getting more and more paranoid and more obsessed with luck-based things through coincidence, essentially. If the chain of events had not happened precisely how they happened, he probably wouldn't have got so obsessed. But since they have happened, it just snowballed and got worse and worse. But nothing weird has happened recently. Only odd events and tragedies.
Would Livia know about the wounds by now?
So if you
Would they
ask them,
tell why they were hurt
so
to me?
if you bring it up, because a couple of you have seen it, they won't hide the facts, and they do lift up their sleeves and they show you that the bruises go from the wrists all the way up, and they tell you that that was part of the luck. That was part of the banishing of luck, was to cause suffering to those who serve you in order to get wealth back from those who don't. Which makes no real sense, but after you've heard the stories about how it progressively got worse and worse, it makes sense, because it sounds a lot like Magness. It just got worse and worse, unchecked and unsupervised. If you do ask, there's no one in his family anymore. It's him. He's of decent age. He should really have sired a few children by now and have a wife, but you find out that his wife died years ago without giving birth to any children, and he just hadn't found anyone else. That wasn't part of his mind's focus, so he's just kind of done what he's done. So he's just been in this echo chamber, having a few nobles who seem right, who seem to think that they know, and he's just followed along with them. You get the idea that he might be kind of impressionable. He might be one of those friends that was, if they were in this world, they might be on hard drugs. and sucking cock for block, you know.
So the ones you eventually drop. Because it's no helping them.
So we need to bring Gale with us to keep him off hard drugs.
Yeah, don't show him drugs. Christ, he'll probably go nuts. Or do, and have a noble in your pocket. Either way, it's the old world.
So should we just be noble drug dealers now?
I mean, probably a lot of money in it.
Well, yeah, the nobles.
Well, I mean, traveling would certainly get his mind off all bullshitty cost.
Do you
But
think
getting
you'd
really
like
high
to
and
get
getting to
high
sit on
on
the
the
deck
chaos
would
plot?
We'll go from one god to the other god.
So, some time passes. Several hours, in fact. Most of the day goes by, and for those of you who are curious, you are allowed to go in and check in on Magness. And as you, for any of you who check early on, you're taken into the same room, and there's in the same seats, far drunker but far cheerier and louder. Later on, they end up in a games room, and they're playing like pool and billiards and shooting targets at the wall with very low powered games guns. And you quickly get the idea that you are not needed for the evening. One of you brings up to, we'll just say one of you does, brings up to the staff, what are we meant to do? They tell you to wait for a moment. They leave. They go and ask Magness and Gale, and they return and they tell you that you have full access to the guest villa, and that they'll show you the way. You're led through the grand meeting hall, through several other grand halls, and just it's almost a bit of a maze, but also a bit of a tour at the same time, as you go through trophy rooms and smoking rooms and drinking rooms and just numbers and numbers of rooms, until you finally get to these very large wooden doors within the castle itself. They open out, and it leads you into think of it as a hotel suite. You have an entire villa there for you to stay in. You each have your own bed, which is of noble quality, is made for nobles. You have your own, essentially everything. There's a bathing area. There's an entertainment area, although it's very small. There's a area where there's a hearth and lots of wingback chairs, and there's a lot of luxury in this room. A bear skin on the floor, and you were told that essentially to enjoy yourselves and to relax, and if you are needed, you'll be summoned essentially, or if you need anything, to summon one of the staff. And you're shown a pulley, not a pulley, a cord that you pull, and they tell you that it rings a bell, and they'll send someone down. As you explore the villa, you would note that it does have a small library. The books are all printed books. They all seem to be, they're books, they're very expensive, they're meant for nobility. It's not particularly specialised. You wouldn't find any magical tomes in here. Some fiction, some non-fiction. But for some of you, this may be an opportunity to do some research. Or just have a chat.
Lydia would dig in the library.
I'm going to go research Solent and the noble families that, specifically the noble families that were in charge before the fall.
Sure.
Is there anything on
So,
that? If not,
for you, Casper, you take a few moments to go over the names of the books and to see what's what and what's where. You pull down about 5 or 6 books. Some might be more. There might be a couple of love stories in there about a noble woman from Seoul and a noble man from Wesselands, and their plight for love. But there might be some information. But you do find at least a couple of history books. Again, they're all written by particular scholars, so how accurate they actually are is GM determined. How much research did the GM do? Well, but you can find material to go through. Livia, was there anything in particular you wanted to look at, or were you just having a general read?
Nothing really specific. I mean, are there any books about, I don't know, herbalism or apothecary stuff?
Yeah, you probably find 1 or 2 books about sorry, what was the first one you said? It was herbology.
Yeah.
Yes, there's at least 1 or 2 about herbology. There's one about apothecary, but it seems to be. It's not an amazing book when you actually look through and you see the drawings and the descriptions aren't particularly great, but it gives you an idea and it is something to go through. Well,
Okay.
oh, actually, I'll say you get 2 of each. One of them's of one of the apothecary books is actually of better merit. It seems to be at least decent, and as you quickly scan through it, again, this is all human medicine, so it's not as advanced, especially the herbology, as what you've grown up with. I mean, the first book you went through was a bit, that doesn't seem right, whereas the second book is a bit more, oh, no, this is closer to what I remember from the woods growing up. So you two have at least a few hours of research that you can do. What would everyone else do? Or would they just relax?
Just to confirm, Humperdinck is either too wasted to do anything or he's asleep, correct?
He is currently firing a toy gun at a target on the wall. You can hear them even from here. Their ruckus laughter, and every now and then you're like, no, don't point that at me. I'll point one at you. Fine, well, we both point one at each other. This is only going to end poorly. Well, drunken decisions always lead to poor decisions. On the count of 3.
low powder kind of black powder weapons.
Yeah, really low powered shots.
Really would just shake our head and should just stay in the room where
It's a parlor
Humperdinck
gun.
is.
That's the one.
Just
It's a
to make
parlor gun.
Really just gonna stay around Humperdinck just to make sure he doesn't, do something super stupid.
Oh, you can see them, but they're both pointing pistols at each other, and counting down from 3, 2, and as they're swaying an awful lot, and the it's not really staying on track, and they move forwards and back, and as they pull the trigger, bang! You see like 2 shots go way off. They're quite close to each other, but just smashed. And, did I get you? I don't think I did. I can't quite tell. I think you did. I think you did. Yes, there appears to be a hole in my face. He puts his finger in his nose. Good bloody shot. Did I get you by any chance? A new hole. Humperdinck puts his finger in his mouth and, maybe. That could be blood. Can't quite see my finger anymore. Yeah.
Aurelia will facepalm and see if she can ask the servants to find targets. And
There are targets. There are targets on the...
She's gonna play a game with it to see who can, score the most points by shooting at the targets and not at one another, because it may end up killing someone.
Oh, so you probably watched them for some time. These are, think of a cap gun firing a small lead BB. It could, if it hit you in the eye, it could take out an eye. I will give you that. But if it hits your skin, you could pop it out. These are parlor guns.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. Then I'm just gonna go be watching them.
Yeah, they're not firing. They're not firing like handguns or an actual full charged weapon at each other. Yeah, as they fire, you can, like when you saw them shooting at the targets, which they did originally do, but drunken men being drunken men, you could hear that there's just a and a small little puff of smoke and this tiny little ball. They probably missed a few times. You just see these tiny little holes in the wall around the target.
No, yeah. I'm still just gonna sit back, relax, and watch them to make sure nothing too bad happens.
No, I don't think they. I'm trying to think if Gale would notice you. I don't think he would. He's quite enraptured with the lads moment. So if no one wants to do anything else, for some of you, you research. For others, you relax. And for others, you just watch the utter ridiculousness of what actually happens. Aurelia, you are at least informed that Humperdinck is going to an opera performance tomorrow, and that you'll all be, like Humperdinck says it in a slurred tone, that you'll all be accompanying him. You'll be protecting him and his best friend. And I imagine that Gale would look at you and kind of blurry-eyed. They looked a bit scruffy, though, didn't they? Do you think we could put them in uniforms? They would look so much better in uniforms. Don't you think, Melius? Well, probably. Do you have any? I can find some without the needles. Yes, yes. I don't think they'd appreciate the needles. Would you? Bah! They burst into laughing. So yes, you will have uniforms for the guard duty you'll be doing tomorrow.
Lovely.
My words exactly. She would just say,
Yay!
So, with that, you all get a... Aurelia, would you stay up all night? Well, I say all night.
I mean, they're super drunk. They'll probably keep drinking and pass out somewhere on the floor. So she'll just make sure carry them to some place where they can actually sleep, and then she'll just
that's what
rest.
their manservants are for. We're not manservants.
This is true.
Yeah,
We're
but
mercenaries.
True. So I'll just make sure to, as soon as they pass out, to
Could you make a drawing
down.
of them and their passed out?
Irelia is probably gambling with a few servants. Even though she's not greedy, she's probably gambling like, I'm pretty sure Humperdinck is not gonna pass out first. I think your master is gonna pass out first. And she's gonna be making a game out of it. And when they're both, down and under, she will go to the library and she'll doze off there.
It doesn't take much longer. It gets to around 10 o'clock by the time that the two men are far too inebriated to carry on doing much else. They are taken to their respected rooms. You would note that the servants are more than capable of hauling Malleus up to his room. From out of nowhere, it seems like maybe they were in the back chopping firewood or something. 3 humongous but quite dumb-looking blokes come out of nowhere and just lift Malleus up underneath the arms, and one helping from around the back. They're taken upstairs into the Lord's. One into the Lord's bedchamber, one into the Lord's guest bedchamber. I nearly said into the same room then, that would be wrong. Malleus isn't like that. And the rest of you enjoy a restful night's sleep. This is probably one of the best nights that any of you have had in a long time. These beds just melt as you fall into them. You are just surrounded by plush cushions and just gorgeous down linen. For those of you who sleep in the chairs, they're also very nice. For those of you who want to sleep in the library. And on the 20th is where we will end this episode. As in the next episode, you have an opera to go to. Won't that be fun? And I hope everyone can join us for that performance in the next episode. So thank you very much for joining us here. We all hope you enjoyed. We're looking forwards to the next one. So take care, everyone, and as always, bye bye for now.
Bye.
Yeah.